Okay, welcome everyone to SASS Mass. I'm Maria. Stephanie is also modding today, and Ocean. Um, and welcome. It's summertime here in Massachusetts. I hope y'all are having some sunny weather. I'm going to post the terms of engagement in the chat, or one of us will post them. But basically, if we kind of talk about any witchy topics. We don't have, this is unplanned, unscripted. So whatever you're feeling that you want to bring up, it's a great time to kind of ask questions that may have been on your mind throughout the month, or just anything going on with your witchy life that you want to bring up. And you can have people weigh in or not. It's totally up to you. We do use the raise hand emoji or the raise hand reaction to stay in order. And if you want to weigh in on somebody who has shared, you just type that into the chat. And that's how we do it. If you can see who goes next, you can hand it off to the next person. And if not, the mod will help you. So I will share some announcements. And before I forget, Natalie has asked me to share. Natalie's been in our community for a long time, and she had adopted Freya from the last litter coven. And she is going to adopt another puppy from this new litter. But she needs some help. So Natalie is on the East Coast, and she's asked me to ask today if anyone is interested in flying to Alaska and then flying to the East Coast or anywhere closer to the East Coast. Doesn't even have to be quite to like New York or Boston. But if you're, so anyhow, you can message the page and I'll get you in touch with Natalie, or you can post something on the Facebook group. But either way, so I wanted to just before I forgot, it's the end of the month. So this is the time where the witches do your reflection in your workbook for all members of Bright and Dark. So we've finished our spellcraft for the month. If you still want to work on that, we can have get the recording to you, or is posted in the members area. And then in your workbook is that time for reflection, now that we're in the end of the month before we get started in June. We do have in June our rituals and revelry, our staycation retreat coming up. So that's kind of like the next big event that's happening. It's going to be a super intimate group. So it's like an awesome opportunity if you're, especially like, I feel like if you're kind of newer, like just a great opportunity to have like one-on-one and really like do a deep dive into your practice. And Whit, Jean-Marie, and Kim are all going to be in Alaska together, and it's going to be fun. So that is virtual. You can do that right from the comfort of anywhere you want. And it's going to be, I think it's the 14th or the 16th, right, Jean-Marie? So basically like starts kind of the first day, it depends on where you live, but usually for most of us, it's like kind of an evening start, and then pretty much taking you through all day on a Saturday, and then ending like that Sunday morning. And again, that may vary depending on your time zone. If you want more information, again, just hit us up on the chat. When you go to our website, there's a little chat button, and that like gets a message quickly to us. You can also email support@brightanddark.org. And so, yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for announcements. Just getting ready to finish up May, start June. And if you want, check out Rituals and Revelry. If you go to the website in the main dropdown, you'll see the retreats tab. So you can access all the information for that. And it's going to be awesome because it's the Midnight Sun edition. And so I'll pass it over to Jean-Marie if she wants to say anything more about that or for anything else. Thank you.
Baxter is insisting on participating in SASS today, so um, this is going to be fun. Hey, mister. He's like chomping on my arm. Good morning, everyone. I mentioned in the live this morning that I have this like almost surreal feeling because many like really big projects are coming to this like launching point. Um like there's a sense of closure to some really big projects, including like the puppies finding placements and getting them to their placements. And there's still some things that need to be sorted out, but there's this sense of it is done, that is finally here, that feels really good. And we're also like putting the like finishing touches on the app that we're going to be launching. And in fact, I got to SASS today from the app. Like it sends you a notification and all you do is just push a button and you come right into SASS. So you don't have to go like finding how to join things anymore. It's like right in there. It's so amazing, guys. I cannot wait until we are at that point where we can be like, here's a link, guys. You could just like come home. We did it. Look what we did for you. Like we're so close. We're so close to this. And it's been such a long time coming. And the possibilities of where it represents is just so mind-boggling that yeah, I'm in this like weird, surreal kind of like place today. So here we are. Um, Such a weird, surreal place. Um, and because I've been in such a not necessarily introspective place, but part of this process of building the app has been looking back on everything that we've done over the course of the last, like, what, 3.5, 4 years of showing up for witches of all kinds of different ways of connecting to their practice and how we were able to support them and how we could do it better and how, like, all of that stuff has been in the front of my practice and experience for several weeks, and that is now like coming to its place. I am currently working on um creating I'm calling it a wipe your feet video. But when you come into this app environment, it's the first thing that you engage with that will take you through a simple grounding meditation so that when you enter this space that we're creating, it's a sanctuary for all of us and we all treat it like a sanctuary. So I've been kind of like uh internally working through the like an incantation to use in that. And I've got some of it, which is kind of great. And my process is that I'll sit on it for a few days because so much of what I do is like channeled. But this like underlying message that, I've been talking about the last few months of being in this place where we get to choose how we participate. We get to choose how we're going to show up in this collective dream that we're building, right? And this incantation kind of represents that in a really cool like way. It's anyway, I want to share it with you guys. The first part of it. Um what I'm weighing in my head right now and in my heart is whether or not to just like take you guys through the meditation or just read the incantation. Uh, because showing up to SASS is also a part of this. Every time we choose to show up in this space for our practice and the way that we do, it's powerful. And I think that it's important that we acknowledge that. Uh, and how special, yeah, both, please. And how special it is that we have a space like this. Um, so it's up to you. You guys are welcome to join in the meditation, or you're welcome to just like witness. So let's just start by taking those 3 deep breaths together. And focus your attention on the physical sensation of your breath. Get as much air as you can and blow it all the way out. And do that 3 times, and then we'll go into joining our space. Right. So start deep breath. And again. One more time. And hand on your heart. I choose now in this moment to align with my whole self, to pull the book that tells my story from its place upon the shelf. I enter now this circle made of trust and hope and power, and I show up for my practice in this place and at this hour. Deep breath in and out. That's it so far. There's a big part of me that likes the idea of doing it 3 times. I don't know. But it's something that we'll do every time we enter into our space, and choose to join together in the way that we do. We learn so much from each other, and it is not always fucking sparkles and rainbows. Sometimes it's us projecting our trauma on each other. Sometimes it's communication breakdowns and confusing feelings of powerlessness. Sometimes it's navigating our past social trauma. And that's not always a, fluffy and comfortable thing, but it is a thing that is allowed in this space, guys. This is a space to be able to be authentic and sincere and have your community show up for you, right? It's a place that you're allowed to make mistakes and be clumsy and be able to learn from those, right? And it's our space. It is our space, and we get to decide what it's going to look like. And we decide that by advocating for our systems and communicating about where we are in our practice and what our needs are. And that's fucking hard. It's so hard. Ugh. You guys are amazing. Like, you guys are worth absolutely every moment of, physical, mental, and emotional labor that the support team like pours into what we're doing. Uh, you're worth it. And I'm proud of you. And you guys are welcome to chime in whenever you want. This is just where I am right now, is just this like really like tender. It's like the culmination of my entire life's work. Every And you guys are everything. You guys are the magic that's making all of this happen. We wouldn't have this community if you guys, each and every one of you, didn't choose to show up for yourselves in some way. And that's hard to do. I recognize that. I recognize that for a lot of us, even showing up to SASS, there's this like, oh, but am I really a part of this? Right? How do I fit in all of this? We question. We're so used to being outcasted that it's like, even when we're among our own, like our people, we're still kind of in that space. But thank you, Satawi. I feel like pride, but I think that I am proud of myself for being brave and choosing to do the thing anyway, to do it scared. Um, I'm proud of myself for taking the time to invest in understanding my relationship with fear. Uh, that's the stuff that I'm proud of. And the way that I see like bright and dark in my involvement with this stuff, like one of my superpowers, and my what is it? My mutant genetics make it to where I can do these like, brave things. And it's like my whole system was created to fucking make it happen to just be brave and jump and do the thing. Uh, and so I don't necessarily take credit, or it's more that I'm proud of letting myself do it than anything else. Um, and I think that it's important for you guys to also recognize that uh what I said, that it's you guys showing up too. Like you guys are just as important in our story as the role that I played in our story, right? You have a part too. And hopefully I'm just an example of like of that being brave, that you can do it scared. You can not have it all figured out yet and just like trust what you're feeling and do the thing, and it works out. It always does. Okay. Uh, Go ahead, Isabel.
Thank you, January. And believe me, and I think I speak for all here when I also say that we're also very grateful for the love and support in the space that you have provided. It means the world because there are a lot of other groups out there that we can very well flirt with and venture into. But you set us apart in that it feels like a place for healing, more than just spells and magic. Well, magic in the self of healing. And I am so grateful for that because other than that, I would still continue to be doing my spell, but alongside with therapy, just for everyday life shit that happens.
Right.
Um, and I also wanted to share something. So after the witch work circle, Maya had posted, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, because I'm really good at butchering things. Um, and had posted something on Facebook. I don't remember exactly what, I forget very easily. And I had made a comment, and I quickly enough after I deleted it because I thought it wasn't it's not about me. I had to give you your space, and I respected what you said. And I wanted to chime in with my candle broke apart. It is like crumbled. And at first I started feeling very anxious and thinking that, oh, what is it reflecting my state of being? Is it reflecting I'm doing something wrong? And I think that compared to last year, this time around, the fact that it went so horribly wrong, it couldn't have gone, I mean, it's like dust. And I I took a step back, and then I thought, this is a way of also life telling me, don't take yourself so seriously all the time. It sometimes things won't come into fruition, and it's not because I'm in a wrong spot in my life or things are not aligned. Precisely because it didn't come out, it might also be telling me, you know what, just don't stress. um, Laugh at it. It's okay to laugh at oneself sometimes over things like that. And it prepared me for a few incidents that I had after, and to not take myself so serious, and also to remember that, at least for myself, that to pay attention, that if things don't work out, not to become upset because am I speaking or am I learning because I'm open, or I am hurt that it didn't work out because of my ego. And I definitely do not want to do things, yeah, because things should be perfect or come out the way I expected. And the lesson in it not coming out was far greater. But it was a lesson that I wasn't expecting at all. And it helped me to take at least the problems that I had with stride and say, everything's okay. And yes, it's okay to laugh at myself. And I mean, I couldn't stop laughing. I shared with my family what my candle came out like, and it was okay. For the first time, it was okay. And this is coming from a place where I don't know the degree of OCD, but I can't go to say that I do laundry. I cannot go to sleep if towels are not iron pressed and the corners are touching, or my husband helped me to sweep the floor and it's bothering me because he doesn't do it right, or etc. I mean, it can go on and on with how things have to go my way and perfectly well done. If not, I will wash everything again and start from scratch, and I know that is an issue. So the lesson was great. And for that, I thank you too. And that's all I wanted to share. I hope I made sense. Thank you.
Are you open for feedback? Or can I weigh in?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh my God, I love this so much. Okay. So one thing that we need to remember about magical workings and spellcrafts, right? It's not about the finished product. It's not about completing the spellcraft or the working. It's about the process of it, right? The energy that you're holding when you're doing it. It's about your relationship with the working, right? And as far as I can see it, that manifestation candle literally brought to you the keys to your kingdom, right? That first real peek behind at the thing that is holding you back and is influencing your relationship with manifestation, right? That idea that it needs to be perfect or complete in order for it to be effective, right? And like last year, that manifestation candle for me did the same thing. It just like crumbled. And I'm like trying to show everyone how to make it. And it's like falling apart in my hands and everything. Uh, I love how our spellcrafts, when we allow them to, actually engage with us in that way and teach us that it's not all about us. It's not all about us. It's about our relationship with what it is that we're doing. Um, it's exciting. It's been so exciting to watch you grow, Isabel. And also be aware and on the lookout for this too, guys. This is our manifestation time, right? A lot is happening, and we're going to have a lot of these moments that we're going to be able to see really clearly because the sun is very bright. We get to really look at where our attention is needed in our lives because we're being stretched to the limit right now. Everything's go, 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 go. So things are going to be brought to our attention, these real big blocks, these big like footholds that exist in our lives, that are going to take more than just a month of our attention, like we do in foundations. They're going to take more than just like a single moon cycle. Uh, those are things that are going to take a full sun cycle to bring our attention to and to hone into. And so be open to the possibility of another long form spell coming toward you, so that you can plan for it for October when we start making those plans for our introspective work. Does that make sense? So, Isabel, for instance, like when I was talking about my relationship with fear, I identified it in a very similar way that you just identified your relationship with perfection, right? Or control, or however you want to look at that. And so I chose to dedicate an entire sun cycle, a whole year, to looking into my relationship with fear. And so I was pushing boundaries. I was like exercising. I took motorcycle class, right? And learned how to ride a motorcycle, to really look at like, what is it that I'm really afraid of? Um, and so that's could be a possibility for you guys to work on a single thing for a full like sun cycle on those big things. And that's exciting. That's really exciting that when we come across those things because it's like a rhizome root structure. It's all connected under, in the unseen places, and you pull up one and you pull up a whole bunch of it. And it's very satisfying from a shadow work perspective. These big things are very satisfying to uncover. So congratulations. This is really exciting. Well done. Look at you go.
Thank you.
And that's all I have to say.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Isabel, for letting me weigh
Thank you.
in. Hi, Stephanie. Go ahead.
Hello. So this is unrelated. So if anybody has more to speak on Isabella's, please go ahead. So I think I have a two-part piece. One, and this makes me really sad and mad, but real life is just really kicking my butt right now. And like I really want to be more involved and I'm part of foundations, but I've got like a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I still have to like cut up their food and wipe their butts and put them to bed and work. And my mother-in-law is in hospice, and just real life stuff is a lot. And so I've not been able to do a lot of the actual foundation stuff except for my little candle. And so this time period is kind of the only time that I'm able to check in. So I hope I'm not like over, I don't know, taking up too much space here. Go ahead, Jen. Do you want to step in on that part?
Do I ever? I love it when this comes up, and it comes up so frequently because there's so many of us that like have it's not the same experiences, but very, very similar veins. Okay. You showing, and to be very like honest, some of what you said kind of cut out, but so I want to kind of make sure that I picked up on what I was picking up on. Am I hearing that you are struggling to show up for your practice in the way that you're wanting to, and wanting to engage more in foundations, but your current lived experience, you're struggling with finding that balance because there's a lot of responsibility that you are doing, right? And am I
Yes.
hearing that you were apologizing for not being able to engage in the way that you wanted to?
Yes, and I could go in a room with better signal right now, but my children are in there because my husband is down with my dying mother-in-law, but my children would be like crawling all over my face and like ripping my clothes off. So, yeah. Yeah. So
As
they're
they
having
do,
quiet time
right?
right now, but the quiet time is not quiet.
So,
So, yeah.
okay. And now I'm feeling into how to explain this, and this is really exciting to me. You're going to participate however you're able to participate in any given moment, period. And that is all that is expected of you. There is no greater expectation than that, is just do your best. You're doing your best. And that's going to look different depending on whatever you're dealing with in your life. We are not always, all of us, going to be able to show up in ways that we want to all of the time. That's just, and there isn't that expectation. There isn't that if you don't do these things, you are not worthy of support and connection and all that. If all you can do is show up for SASS and share in this space, that's all you can do. And that is fucking fine. That is fine, right? We are still going to be here when you're ready and able to engage at whatever pace and at whatever, like, there's no right, wrong, none of that. It's just you showing up when you can, and us being able to model for you what compassion looks like and what understanding looks like and what that support looks like. We have witches coming in and out of foundations and the resource center all of the time. It's when we giggle and say hashtag not a cult, we really mean that. There is no expectation that you have to stay with us all of the time and that you can't like explore anything outside of what we're like sharing. That is not how we roll. When you feel like you need the medicine that this community brings, you come. And when you feel like your curiosity or your life is taking your attention in another direction, you give it that. And we are going to be celebrating when you come back and tell us all about it and share with us what you have learned in your time, right?
That's so and appreciated.
Yeah. We're trying to like change that bar, guys. We're trying to adjust that for you. Life is fucking hard. It is challenging. And sometimes shit happens that needs all of our attention, right? And guilt and shame has no business in this process, period. Like that, it just has no business in it. So there. We're gonna love you when you're showing up at all of the stuff as much as we're gonna appreciate you when you're like showing up for your family and your responsibilities. Like we do what we gotta do when we gotta do it. Right? Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why we're so excited about the app too, because it just makes all of this easier for all of us. And like Oh, I'm so excited. Go ahead, Maria.
Um, a lot of well, let me start with this. So when I in my first year of foundations, I mean, I did, was able to get to, engage in like the witch work circle, but I will say that really that part wasn't the focus, and I just find that true for a lot of people. Like shadow work was really the focus of like the first year, and then like just the stuff that would come up, it was mostly working through that. And I did go get to witch work circle, but I really didn't do much else but that. And it was a lot of like shadow work and catalysts and all of these things. And like it was eye opening to have the perspective shift with the social pulling apart everything, because we're so conditioned to think that like if I don't do X, Y, and Z, then I'm not going to be able to do that, or I'm not a witch, or I'm not that. But you are, and you are because you say you are, you know. And I mean, what I love too is having a lifestyle that's also like having a lot going on. If you stick around long enough, like you will start to kind of do that deconditioning of the social constructs, and things just start to kind of open up and perspective shift. And honestly, that's the most like magical thing that has ever happened, really. And the reason I say that is because then you be cutting up your kids' food like magically, like there's magic in the mundane, and like so like that's all about like intention. Like literally you can be cutting up their food, and the way that you choose to do that like can be part of your practice. And that is something that like I necessarily didn't know. I absolutely came from of like very anxious OCD. I mean, I still am. They're still like part of me, but the perspective has shifted. Um, very like A type, and all of like a protection, and a very much trying to control. And that, anyways, that's just was my kind of thing. But just kind of learning that there is magic in the mundane, and that like we are the foundations program, and there's certainly absolutely value like in engaging with your practice. But what everything Jen Marie said, I couldn't like agree with more, is that um whatever way you want to show up, that is what's aligned for you. And that's also like so important, to kind of be in the here and now, and this is where you're at, and that's just where, that is where you're at, and that's beautiful, and that is magical. And so you're not any less. And sometimes we might see other witches like doing these grand, things like grand spells, or like really like, that excuse me, just choking on my saliva for no reason. um, we might be comparing ourselves, and that's like part of the deconditioning process too, right? Of like, where I'm at is sacred, and to kind of like honor that. That's all. Thank you.
Maya?
Hi. I just wanted to share that I originally I talked about this before, but I originally joined Barton Dark like a year and a half ago. And after a few months of being a part of the group and everything, it was great, but life just kept happening, and like life got so overwhelming, and I noticed that like I wasn't really participating or really had my full focus on the practice. So I took a step back from my own practice and from the group, and like let life happen and dealt with the mundane and the physical, until I got to a place now where I've rejoined, and they really are so welcoming and welcome me back with open arms. And there was no like spam mail like, hey, haven't seen you in a while. There was none of that to try to lure me back in. And it was just, it's very much just come as you are, however you are. And it's so lovely. So however you need to come or however you need to participate in your practice is totally accepted and welcomed. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's always so, I don't know. I mean, I guess I should just come in expecting the opposite of what is to be expected, because it's not, it's just not the way it always is elsewhere. So part 2, I had another dream. And again, it's not like a weird, rambling, confusing dream. And it shouldn't have even been in metaphor because it was so clear. So very brief. There was a young Black man, very attractive, nice, smiling Black man in my driveway. And I was having him talk to my parents before he came in. And then I was having him, so then he came into the yard, and I was having him talk to my children before he came into the house. And all the while I'm beating batter to like make a dessert. And then finally I allow him into the house and I make like cakes, but not only am I making cakes, but I'm making like 2 cakes. And then I finally like allow him into the kitchen and I look into the oven and the cakes are like over full and like overflowing while they're cooking. And then I wake up and the knowing is that this is the dark masculine and I am over preparing, like beating the hell out of the batter and making too many cakes and putting too many obstacles and meet my parents, meet my kids, let me make more cakes, let me da 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 da. Cool, duly noted, but what the fuck? Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what that means. So my question to you is, I really don't know that much about the dark masculine. Like dark feminine, sure, like Callie and the head cut off and like burn everything down and hurricanes and wildfires and start over. Like I get the dark feminine, but I'm so like meh on the patriarchy and kind of masculine in general that I've never really thought about the dark masculine and haven't explored it. And I also don't know, what am I doing to over prepare? Like I'm just chilling. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to grasp. I'm not trying to try. I'm just trying to be. So if anybody has thoughts or wisdom on like who is this Black dude and what is the dark masculine and how am I beating the batter too much? Please chime in if you have wisdom or knowledge to share.
Hello. You're going to hate this answer. And I'm sorry in advance, but here's the answer that I have, or the response that I have rather. So like kind of looking at, I think there was some too, like comments in the chat, like if you take away all of that dark, light, patriarchy, like traditional stuff, and of course, if you are following a particular tradition, that is completely okay. And if people are doing that, that is completely okay. But in general, bright and dark doesn't. We don't follow any tradition. You can practice any religion or follow any tradition and still like engage with what we do at bright and dark. Or you can not and still like practice witchcraft. So the when people ask for dream interpretations or like what does this mean, I have such a hard time answering it because it doesn't, this is the part you're going to hate, it doesn't really matter what it means to me, it only matters what it means to you. And so I would encourage you, if you want to like strip all of the bits about like the dark masculine and just lean into like the feeling, how you felt when you were doing it. And the way that I would do dream interpretation is like super intuitive. So if I was sitting with someone and I had your consent, like it would be more of like a psychic type of reading where I would more just be like tapping into like the energy of it and maybe your guides and maybe ancestors and whoever else wanted to talk that day. But and so like that's how I do dream interpretation, but I don't go by any set of like oh, like if you're falling in your dream it means this. I've completely like shed all of that because it's so situational. And so that's why I said you're going to hate that answer, because it's like kind of I feel the way that, yeah, I just kind of go about that is like, is really like, how are you feeling? And not maybe like associating it like what it should mean or what you think it means, or, but I will say, sometimes we are called to go down the rabbit hole of research, and that is super witchy, and can be, awesome too. And, but that's very intuitive. It's like, because you may read five different perspectives on, if you're wanting to lean into a particular tradition, and you're wanting to lean into that, and you may go down that rabbit hole of meanings. I would encourage like to use discernment, because a lot of it is so control based, and a lot of it can be power over all, where a power for all perspective is typically what's more aligned, like in this group, if that makes sense. So that's where like using the bit of discernment. But when you go down the rabbit hole of research, whatever it is you want to do, also like just see what you read and what excites you and what like pings you without fear. And so there's a lot wrapped into that. And so I'll stop there. And I hope I didn't cause any confusion. And if I did, I'm happy to clarify anything. Okay. Demery.
Okay. My like little clicky place for raising my hand is like not responding to my mouse right now. So I'm going rogue. I'm just gonna do this. And hopefully it's setting an example that you guys like flailing wildly will also get our attention. So do what works for you. I love dream interpretation too. And Maria and I are super aligned with the personal correspondences trump traditional correspondences in an untrained witch. The only time, if you like invested a bunch of time and energy into learning the like pre-made structures of dream interpretation, then you are programming your mind to interpret in that way. Does that make sense? But you can also do it intuitively based on your current structures if you allow space for that. And the key to that is not necessarily, like what Maria said, not necessarily looking at what happened, but more about how did you feel about what you were engaging with, right? So when you were whipping the batter, what were you feeling when you were doing? What was your intention when you were doing that, right? What I'm picking up from you is that there was a preparation. There was this like, you were preparing to host in some way, and your preparations kind of fell through because you were hosting for something that you didn't understand, right? And that you were trying to use existing systems of like understanding and interaction in order to host this being or energy that you are unfamiliar with, and it didn't play out the way that you expected it to, which is unsettling, or can be unsettling, right? But it can also be a sign to look at what Maria was talking about of like changing or bringing your attention to your perception of that light, dark, and even, I don't use gender in my magic either. And so like the divine masculine and divine feminine, you ask people from all over the world that same question, they're going to give you a different answer, because gender is a cultural thing. It's not a widely universally accepted like concept. They're not all the same. And so if you step back again and ask yourself, like, this being that was in front of me that was presenting in this way, how did it make me feel? How did I feel about it? Right. And so that would be the first, like, my suggestion of like how to untie that, is asking those questions too. And it could be that invitation to look at your relationship with divine masculine and feminine, and the light and dark, like where does that way of categorizing things come from? And is that aligned with what your authentic experience is? Or is that from a place of social conditioning? You were conditioned to believe that these are these separations. Go ahead, Satawi, if you want to weigh in.
Okay, let me try and turn on my video. Hey, everybody. So I had a friend that studied dream interpretation, and I was trying to get into it for a little while. And he told me when I very first started, very similar to what you guys are saying, that the images are just going to be things that are subconsciously there, and your brain plays it like an iPod shuffle. But they're supposed to bring up feelings, and when those feelings come around, that's where your focus is supposed to be. That's what you're supposed to be working on, and the images are just there to kind of like help push that feeling along, and that's where your work is supposed to be. And it's the feelings you're feeling when you see these things or when you're doing these things, that type of thing. So that's all I had.
That all makes sense, and that all is helpful. I think the feeling is just like chill out, girl. Chill out, girl. Like let the dude in. Like stop putting all the barriers in. Stop trying to host and stop trying to be like, oh no, wait, meet them first, meet them first, meet them first. And the vibe and the feeling was all very good. Like he was a very nice man. Like he was very attractive and nice and pleasant. Eventually got in anyways. But stop the delay, stop preparing, stop over preparing, stop being such a host, stop being nice, stop being so, I don't know, preparatory, and chill out and let it in. But again, the question is like, let what in? And how am I over preparing and what am I delaying? And so, I mean, I guess that's just going to have to fester.
How many people are smelling cake right now? Right? I think that's so funny that so many of us, fucking witches, man, I swear to God.
Hello. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I can't. Am I next? Do I have my? Okay. So I was going to say what you said, though, is super, I think, exciting also because the dream doesn't have to be the end of the exploration if you don't want it to be, right? Like, if this is something that's like pinged you, you keep thinking about it. So that alone is saying, okay, like this is maybe, and it's interesting because sometimes people don't see that as their guidance system. Like people say like my guides aren't, communicating with you. But for me, like if something keeps entering into my mind on a repetitive basis, I'm like, oh, okay, let me look at this. Like what is it that you want me to figure out here? And it's okay if I don't, because I know it's just going to come back around, like it's always going to come back around. But if you don't want it to be the end of the exploration, like you can, drop into a meditative state. And that doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can literally just be taking a couple deep breaths, like, and doing a bit of grounding. Like for me, I just kind of sit, take a couple deep breaths, like grounding for me. Sometimes I just imagine myself connecting with the earth in whatever way. A lot of times I see like roots kind of growing out from my feet and connecting with the earth. So I may do a bit of grounding, a bit of breathing, like, because when we say meditation, we don't have to like sit for 1 hour and go through all of these like prompts, but just some sort of way to kind of drop in a little bit. And grounding can be super important too, in whatever way that works for you. But you could like play some music, you could color, you could do an art project, you could just do like some writing, just like I want to write about this dream that I had to try to get more information. You're allowed to ask for clarification and for more information. And like, and just like, and the way that it might show up, it could show, it depending on, sometimes it's more complex. So sometimes like 1 week from now, you just may be like sitting, I don't know, and you'll see like a road sign and you'll be like, oh my God, that's what that means, like, because sometimes when we ask for things, like the universe has to orchestrate a number of things in which to get it to you, so sometimes it doesn't happen immediately. But if it's feeling even exciting to you, that's also manifestation, like energy, like follow the excitement, like just in this here and now moment, what is the what like what's the I'm gonna say like with just within your reality, within the here and now, what can you follow right now that is a bit of exciting? It doesn't have to be like mind blowing. Even just like what choice do I have that's the most exciting? You know, I like plan my workday like that. Like I'm like, I have these 5 things to do. I don't what's like the most, you know, what's like the most exciting thing that I could do out of these 5 lists? None of them are all super freaking exciting, but like what's the most? So that's like one way to go about it. But it's like it's just interesting that you you know that you can also get more information and clarification and just be led down, you know, the breadcrumbs, the yellow brick road there, and follow it and like see where it leads you. And I love that then when you kind of engage in that way and then you have the aha moment and you're like, oh yes, and then it's the next thing that comes up, you know, because it's never like I don't ever see anything as kind of like a completion. It's just like on it's like that bit of information and then we can kind of uncover the next bit of information. If that makes if that makes sense.
That all makes a lot of sense. And I do love hosting parties, and I do kind of like Isabel's irons. I don't own an iron, like not about that, but I do love throwing parties. And if I'm gonna have olives, I'm gonna have like 5 different kinds of olives. And if I'm gonna make a cake, I am gonna make 2 different kinds of cakes. And so, yeah, maybe just stop being so extra.
I'm
Jen
jumping
Marie,
in.
go ahead.
I'm jumping in.
Yeah.
As a Taurus, son, you are allowed to be extra. Like it's awesome. And we are greatly appreciated in those spaces of entertaining. So don't kid yourself. The trick is to figure out what is people pleasing and what is my nature. What is my personal way of escaping and dissociating from my life, which we can do when we're in the kitchen or making these authentic engagement. Can you get movement again? Hello? Yeah. Okay. My EMPs, man. Freezing up my shit. Okay, guys. So does that make sense? Like that's one of the parts of these processes, understanding in what ways we engage with our lives from a place of like a coping mechanism, or we're actually like truly dissociating, and in what ways are our nature, acceptance and compassion, right? Because we can't, it's the attempts of changing who we are and our nature that are like fucking our shit up, man. That's like so extra doesn't necessarily mean bad.
Right. So extra as a coping
Correct.
mechanism versus extra as just making a beautiful spread. Yes, that makes sense. And I'm
Right.
Sagittarius
Yeah.
rising, Sagittarius sun, like all the adventure, all the fun, all the beautiful parties, like the decor and everything being beautiful is like on point, but worrying about how it looks and yeah, the coping mechanism of perfection and staying
will
up
it
all
be
night doing it.
enough? And like, are they
Yeah,
gonna love me? And
that's different.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Chantal?
There was something else. Something else. Okay, I'm gonna like pass the ball over to Chantel and then I'm gonna see if I can remember.
Gotta lower my hand. Hang on. Okay, can you hear me? Yeah. Hi. Oh no, it's frozen. Are you back? Hi, 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 hi. Okay. Possible change. I can't hear it. things to talk about, and I guess I'm just going to go with the first one. So on the dream topic, can we flip a little bit to astral travel? Astral travel. Just very quickly, I had an experience. Okay, so I'm putting my little one to bed, and I was just sitting in the dark on the bed, just he's going to sleep, and my eyes were closed, and then I looked up, so my eyes are still closed, but it was lighter, and I was looking at a brick wall. Anyway, the details are really important. So I'm looking at the brick wall, and there's a spider that crawls across the wall. So I can see all of these details really to the point where I like put down when my hands were on the bed. Explain again. Am I talking to myself?
It's a little bit glitchy. Do you want to try turning off your camera? Just see if we can hear you, but and that might help. Sometimes they might be frozen altogether. Oh, did they pop off? Okay, they'll come back. Yay, internet. Okay, Chantal, I see you there, but you're on mute.
Am I back? Are you back?
You're back. I was gonna say,
Okay, I don't know where you got to.
it may work if you want to keep your camera off while you're sharing. It may help. I don't know, but if you want to try that.
Okay, we'll see where we get to. Anyway, so the point
Okay.
is that this weird little thing happened, and I didn't feel anything about it. Like I barely noticed it. If it hadn't been for me being like, it's a spider, and then like pushing down on the bed and realizing I'm still sitting there, but I'm very clearly not there. So I don't know. It didn't feel weird. It didn't feel scary. It didn't even feel that strange, except that I was like, should I try and do that again? When the spider had finished walking, I just kind of got up and went to bed. Like it wasn't significant, really, except that I was very much there. So now I'm kind of like, am I supposed to, right? Are there things I don't know, am I leaving myself open? Is there a fear thing here? Am I supposed to be scared? They're like, I don't know. I follow is it a Bella? And she talks a lot about like tethering and I don't know, these are things that, and I'm just kind of like, is there things I'm supposed to be looking out for, or like whatever? Don't eat the fruit, right? I mean, so if anyone has any.
So we are on opposite sides of the entire globe, you and I. So first of all, I want to start out by saying that's fucking miraculous that we get to hang out in the ways that we do. And I'm really looking forward to when we can figure out the tech side of things and be able to communicate more clearly. But so this is half what I was hearing and half what I was like hearing in what you're talking about. Okay. So I want to make sure that I understood you. You had an experience that was like out of body, right? Or where you were you were aware, consciously aware in a state that you knew that your physical body wasn't necessarily present, right? And you witnessed a spider, but had indifferent feelings about the spider and what the spider was up to. And the thing that you were aware of the most was more the fact that you were aware. and that that you're questioning, like, what are you supposed to do with that, right? Right. Am I right about that? Did I
Yeah,
catch
yeah, yeah,
what?
yeah. No, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly. It was just this really like kind of mundane
Yeah.
experience in a very weird way.
Can I share with you my first experience with astral projection?
Please.
Okay. So, um, it was when I was like, I think it was 14. I think it was like 14. And so at that time, our like home had burnt to the ground, and we were living in like a shell of a house. So we didn't have even walls inside. It was just like these studs that you could see through. And we had like blankets up and stuff as like for a little bit of privacy, but my bed was on top of a stack of sheetrock. And my dad would come home every Saturday, and he would bring donuts and orange juice. And we had like 9 kids in the house at that time. So it was his, hers, ours, everybody else's, and all the neighborhood kids would come over too. And so this was something that he did all the time. And so I was asleep on that stack of like sheetrock, and I became like aware and awake, and I watched my dad walk up the stairs. I could see him through the beams, right? And I watched him walk up the stairs and set the donuts and the orange juice on the table and walk down the stairs. And when he hit the last stair, I consciously woke up, like my body woke up, and I was like, whoa. Like, I just like witnessed this, but I was asleep, right? So it was a completely not a special moment. I didn't have any like, big revelations or anything like that. It was just this, well, that was something different that got immediate like validation and confirmation that it's possible. And this was like, I was the weird kid in town that spent all of my time in the back of the library in the occult section. Like, since I was like 8 years old, I was tiny when I started reading about astral projection and stuff like that. So it was like this, I kind of had an awareness of what it was and what was happening, but I had never like actually pulled it off. I can remember being a kid and be like, going through the whole like meditations of setting intentions before you go to sleep, and like the silver tether thread and like all of that kind of stuff. I knew all of the things, but I didn't experience it in the same way as what I read in the books. But having that personal experience kind of changed things for me to realize that, yeah, this is possible, but it's not necessarily going to be like super special or this like full experience, right? And as far as the spider goes, that's that same like dream interpretation thing of like,
Yeah.
what does a spider represent for you? And for some of us, like, I was terrified of spiders when I was a kid, but I'm not anymore. I've worked through that, and now I'm indifferent, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm supposed to be afraid of this, but I'm indifferent. Like that feeling, that's the message, is your relationship with the spider, right?
Spiders are weavers and weavers are witches. So that's cool.
Right. Okay. So this is like, it's your own
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful nugget of like experience.
It was
And
just very cool. Like I hung
right,
around. I was like, look at it. Really look at it. Like you're here. And then
right.
I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Like it does, it's
Rad.
not always gonna be this. Sometimes it's your dad bringing donuts,
I
like,
wish it was my dad.
thank you for
Do
sharing.
you think,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
setting intentions before bed? So I've been sort of uh, calling in dreams, if you'd like trying to dream because I haven't dreamed for years that I can remember. Do you think that was just like a switch almost? Like, oh, okay, here you go.
Have you started
Another
dreaming,
world.
or was it just this
Yes.
experience?
No, I have started dreaming not often so that I can remember. I only keep the feeling. I don't remember the details. But I've got a dream journal and things. This was just, yeah, it's felt off the charts and completely normal. Yeah. It's weird. Thank you for sharing your experience.
Oh, totally. Go
Good
ahead.
night.
Hello. So this is kind of tagging onto, it's more of a question, but it's kind of tagging onto what Chantal was talking about, which is, I had a couple of outer body experiences when I was a teenager that they weren't intentional either. But I also, so this is like late 80s. Do you guys remember when everyone had those like, I have like, my lungs are like the size of a walnut. Like I have such bad asthma, like, so I always had like an air cleaner machine going, and it was, they were like those ion cleaning air machines that would spark every once in a while, which I guess are really bad for you now they know, but I had one right by my bed. And both times I was literally like floating out of my body. The air machine would start sparking, like it would just be like shooting sparks out of it. And it would wake me up. I mean, it would like snap me out of it. It would just pull me out of the thing. And so I've always just wondered if anybody's ever heard anything associating like ions with out of body experiences, because it happened both times. And it was like, these machines will spark every once in a while, but this thing was like shooting sparks out of it. So anyway, that was just, it's one of my observations. I've always been, I have like these little observations. I'm just always waiting to see if somebody else has ever had a similar experience. But again, how many people had an ion air cleaning machine? Not, that also, accidentally start astrally projecting, not that many. So, but that is one of my little weird personal mysteries I'm trying to solve. So, Stephanie.
Sorry, this is totally unrelated to that, but just a side note on the personal imagery stuff. When I work with people with PTSD, I don't know if y'all know about the Great Molasses Flood of like 1860 or something in Boston, but there was a molasses vat that broke and like flooded Boston and killed a bunch of people and horses. And so if you were in that town during that period, you would associate molasses and pancake syrup and jelly with terror and horror and fear, whereas everybody else would, jelly means, grandma and wonderful, amazing, beautiful things. And so just to show how individualized images are, so a spider could mean beautiful, wonderful creation of webs, or it could mean horror and terror and death, depending on the person. So look up the Great Molasses Flood. It's very interesting. Sorry, totally not about astral projecting.
Maya, go ahead.
Hi, so I wanted to chime in about the ion thing. So I researched it a little bit. I don't know, it just randomly came up on my feed on how like the ion air cleaners did weird, crazy stuff, or there was more like paranormal activity or raised vibrations and stuff. And more on a scientific note, the ions electrically like put off an EMF reading that's really high, and so it can literally raise vibrations within a room or wherever it's placed at. So like metaphysics wise, it can raise people's vibrations to do things like astral projecting and stuff like that. Or even if you believe in like the paranormal stuff, it can make more paranormal experiences happen, or have spirits have more energy type of thing. So that might tie into why people may have those sorts of things or sorts of experiences. So I don't know if that helps. But it's weird that I just read about it this week and you brought it up. So yeah. Renee, I think.
Oh, holy shit. I mean, I can't, that, I have, I mean, this happened when I was 16 and I've been like mulling it around in my head since then. Thank you, Maya. Like, thank you so much for solving my personal mystery. And now I'm gonna like, I never thought to even like look it up because I thought it was so random. I mean, but I also thought, you know, there probably weren't a million people that collected little Schleich animal figures, and it turns out there are, you know. So it's like anything, I think any information is on the internet if you dig around hard enough. But yes, thank you so much. That's crazy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure who's next. I'm gonna lower my hand and mute.
Maria, you can go ahead.
Thank you. So not specifically to ions, but my personal experience with the very first autumnal convergence, our photographer, videographer, Rick, we drained his batteries like in an hour. So he had full like batteries on his cameras, and like we kept having to like charge them or go get new batteries because during ritual we drained them. And then when we did have we had something called a ritual rave that we had done on the East Coast um one time, and we had some like tech stuff, and we told them the people that were helping, like, please be like prepared because like your weird stuff's gonna happen with your tech. We don't know what it is, but when like, you know, so when yes, yes to all of that. And I think there is definitely a lot of like science out there to kind of back that up. I'm sure you can go down a huge rabbit hole with it, and I'm excited to hear more information. All right, let's see, Stephanie.
Maria, I love that you brought up the battery thing because I remember my grandmother always had to wear a watch like around her neck because she couldn't wear like battery watches, and neither can I. I will drain a battery in something and have since I was a little kid, and even, you know, still, you know, with phones and stuff, mine will drain faster even if I'm not touching it, even if I'm nearing it, I will just drain a battery. So it's kind of nice to be in a group of people that understand that when I've been told that I am absolutely making that up my entire life. But um it's just I appreciate that validation, Maria. Thank you. That's all I really wanted to say.
I'm gonna jump in and just say I never thought about the fact it was interacting with my iPhone and my iPad, but just this morning I was juggling devices because the batteries were draining out of both my phone and my iPad. So I was like on one for a while, and then I switched to the other. But yeah, I didn't, yeah, I've heard about it in like ghost hunting, but I hadn't heard about it with you know, us.
Tech has traditionally is not allowed in circle um because of stuff like this. It is electricity. Electricity is energy, and you introduce electricity or energy into a magical space, and there's gonna be interaction with that in some way. And Kim can vouch for that. We used to have to leave our, like, we couldn't bring tech into our circles. We had to leave it at the door. And like back in the day, I used to think that it was because it was just the elders, a bunch of old people running circles stuck in their ways. And now that I'm like I experience it all the time. That's why I talk about how frustrating tech is for me, because it is not reliable for me, to the point that I have recurring nightmares about being in dangerous situations and my phone not like recognizing my fingerprint, or like not reacting or doing what it needs to do in order to get out of this like dangerous situation, because of that like relationship. And when you get a bunch of witches that have similar experiences with their field together, doing intentional like things, it's really cool. That's one of the reasons why I love the autumnal conversion so much, because it's the one time a year that we can actually get together and experience that in person, and not have to worry about, you know, the internet glitching out, or being distracted by something that our computers are doing. Right. We get distracted by like nature showing up in really cool ways when we try to do meditations and things. But yeah, it's something about our like field interacting with other energetic fields in different ways. Renee. Oh, also, I want to point out too that with the paranormal thing, uh, one of the things that makes witches witches is that we have one foot on the other side and one foot in the physical world, and we're kind of a balance between, like a space between, and that the way that when the other side shows up, when that paranormal stuff shows up, they're showing up in that energetic way, the same way that we engage. It's the same space. We're engaging in the same space and with the same kind of like energies. We're just doing it in a different way because we're still embodied. And so there's that. Or we are embodied. I shouldn't say still. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I was just going to mirror the same thing on the natural world. So I do psilocybin retreats on the solstices or the equinoxes, and we put all of our tech, you know, somewhere deep in a corner. And over the weekend, there will inevitably be, there will be a tree that falls, or birds that come in, or, you know, a storm that brews out of nowhere. And so it's a natural thing, but a weird, bizarre, natural thing will inevitably kind of appear out of nowhere when that kind of energy is big. I think Maria was next.
Hello, I like your cat too. I think Renee, I think you were next. Go ahead and I'll go after you.
I've got a magical change of subject, so if you have a way in, Maria, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. I think just wanted to, yeah, it was a quick way in. And I know I say this all the time, but I'm going to say it again. So like with all of the things that like we're talking about, like this phenomena, people, as they say, and astral projection and different things, the like the shadow work bit of this, to kind of dive into your shadow work, is so important, because when you have these magical experiences, like when you've kind of done the shadow work and what you kind of dig into kind of the fear, and because sometimes when we have these experiences, they may bring up fear of like, what am I doing? Is this a bad omen? Did I do something wrong? Why is this happening? You know, and maybe that's not happening for you, and that's totally fine. But it's such a common like question that comes up. So I just felt kind of pinged to talk about it. But it's like doing the shadow work part of this in conjunction with the magical practice is so extremely awesome. And because when stuff like that's happening, I mean, and there might be a mundane explanation, like where maybe your iPad is old, or but maybe it's not, you know. Um, when these things kind of happen to us, it's like just getting, like being like little like getting that curiosity and like wanting to maybe explore it, or just like appreciating it for what it is. And because we so often, I think the part of the conditioning that I had is like, seeing things as like good or bad. And the perspective shift for me is like seeing things as just is. It just is. And then like letting that cool experience happen, and like feeling just like the cool and like the awe of it. And there was another piece of that. Oh, the discernment piece, you know, like kind of being able to dig in, and like with the astral projection, I mean, there is a lot out there about tethering and about this and that. I'm probably the worst person to ask, because I'm like, just see what happens. But it's like, that's how I kind of do it. And that's not, but I will say I can do it that way, engage with my magic in that way, because I'm confident that nothing is more powerful than me, and that I'm just like having these experiences and I'm not afraid. And so that was a big thing for me, and that's why kind of I engaged with those experiences. But I encourage everyone to do like what feels most comfortable for you. And I also think all of that like research bit of it and the science bit of it is super fascinating, interesting, and I like to read lots of perspectives. And why I love SASS is because I love to hear like everyone's experiences as well. That's all. I kind of went off there. Thank you very much, Renee.
Well, real quick, that made me have something that I kind of wanted to mention that Maria made me think of, which is I am also like the kind of person that's kind of like, yeah, let's like fly by the seat of our pants and see what happens. And then last weekend I met an older woman who is very experienced with past lives, and she was warning everyone, oh, be careful about this and be careful about that, and don't ever do anything unless you've talked to other people and researched it. And I have to say, I didn't say anything out loud, but I was kind of like, nah, I'm not going to do it that way, like I'm just going to keep doing it the way I'm doing it right now, because I feel like I do have a resource here with, if something pops up. But the magical thing I wanted to tell everyone about, because I feel like I have to proselytize about this, is so I just got a book called The Queen of Wands, and it's about Pamela Coleman Smith. And she is the illustrator of what other people call the Waite Rider deck, but I call it the Coleman Smith deck, which confuses people. But for one thing, like Waite is a publisher. Like, why do they deserve any credit at all? They have nothing to do with it. Rider wrote just very brief descriptions, all of the art, all of the symbolism, all of the colors, everything about the most commonly used tarot deck in the world is Pamela Coleman Smith. Now, I'm not an expert. I haven't even read this book yet because it just showed up, but I know a little bit about her from research, from listening on podcasts. This book is actually a graphic novel. So if that's your jam and it makes it easier for you to, I can take in a lot of information in a graphic novel like really fast, so I really appreciate that about a graphic novel. Plus, I just love a good graphic novel. Plus, I just think someone writing a graphic novel about one of the greatest unsung graphic artists of all time is just really fitting and fun. But she's a fascinating woman, and she's a woman of color, and she did not get credit in her lifetime. And the other thing that makes me so sad is that she's an artist that gave up on art. She's an artist that she wasn't getting, the credit, which, I mean, that's really hard. That's really, really hard. But she was also doing it to make a living. And when she wasn't making it a living at it, she gave up on it. And I just think that's such a shame. I hate it when anyone gives up on their art, because just like this, like you never know, like 100 years from now, you might be someone's hero, you know? But anyway, that's a fun magical thing. And I always kind of butt into, and when someone says Wait Rider, I go Smith. Like, and I can't help it. It's like an involuntary like butt in, but I just want everyone to know about her and know that the book's called The Queen of Wands, but there's actually, it's really interesting because there was hardly any information about Pamela Coleman Smith for a really long time. And now there's like 5 books that just came out about her all around the same time. But yes, I highly encourage everyone to look into her. And it actually makes the tarot deck so much more meaningful to me. And the first tarot book I had ever read was 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack. And something that she had said in that book was, everything you need to know is on that card, like within the symbolism. Like you don't need to read, you don't even need to read like a tarot, like you don't have to look up the meanings or everything. Like when you get familiarized with Pamela Coleman Smith, all of the information is right on that card. But you do have to dig into it a little bit. But so that was my kind of magical thing this week. Also, I know that I like to say that my like fantasy, my ultimate witchy fantasy is to be the librarian / museum curator. With that being said, as someone who likes to curate things, if everyone has like old bright and dark origin story ephemera, please keep it forever and don't throw it away so it can someday go in the museum. And I am going to hop off, and I believe Isabel is next.
Hello? I don't know if you could hear me. Oops.
Yeah, we can hear you, Isabel.
Oh, thank you. I'm having trouble. Okay, so I have taken a lot of courage from y'all here because I hear you say, and I'm sorry, let me begin. It's not a weigh-in, but it's connecting to some of the things that have been said here today. And I just wanted to share that I'm learning to be confident in perhaps the gifts that I possess, and that I've always kind of apologetically say, well, I don't know what this might be, and so it leaves it for interpretation, that people might say, well, maybe it's this or that. And if I'm not making a lot of sense, I'm sorry. Okay. So when I mentioned about my daughter's home and hearing noise, feeling a certain kind of way in one of the rooms, but I came about it sharing this as if I wasn't certain in what I was feeling. And that's minimizing what I know I have, what I know I can detect, what I know that I've had always. And I'm learning from hearing you all that if you have a gift, don't deny it and leave it for interpretation of, well, maybe it could be something else. Sure, I think that it is valid to say, discard first, go through the checklist that it's not this or that. And then once all the checks have been boxed, that then you can say, well, it really was something the gift that I have, that now I am actually with, as I grow into my practice more, that I can say, oh, it's even getting stronger as I continue in my journey. but I am learning from all of you that if you have a gift, and this I hear some of you saying, like, I can do this, like I can talk to spirits or what have you, and you're confident about it. And why shouldn't you? Because this is your gift and you know that you have it. And I just wanted to, again, I can't, I know we all do individually our own work, but I'm learning to be confident in what I know I possess. And I have that to thank all of you, like feeling safe. And I've been vulnerable so many times here before that I can say, I have this gift and I know this is what I heard. And I know that I might have not made any sense, but it's all coming around to just saying, I am so grateful for this space, because in hearing all of you be so confident in what you have, I feel it's permissible for me to acknowledge myself and say, and this is what I bring too. And that's pretty much it. Oh, thank you.
You can go ahead, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you, Isabel. I think what you said made a lot of sense. And I appreciate it. I think that I know, like, I think talking to, other witches and just my experience, that it does come up a lot, like the doubt. And I think that there are some people that, too, like for me, like that we can sometimes talk about these things too. And there are some people that, like, I'll never be able to talk about like some of this stuff too, and um that, like, having this community, I think, where we just can have this space and, like, you could pop on and be like, hey, I had a conversation with the spirit that lives in my attic today. And we're going to be like, great, that's awesome. Tell us more about it, and nobody's going to like bat an eye. But it's just, a lot of us who didn't maybe grow up with like having, people to support, or, and it is like we're deconditioning that. And that part, that trust. And that's why it's like the big part of the shadow works, like repairing that relationship with your intuition. And so, because really, like, we have these experiences and sometimes it's just us, like, seeing it, sensing it, or feeling it. And then it's kind of having the belief that, we this is what I felt, I experienced, and this is what, like, this is my interpretation of what I experienced. And I think what you shared is just so important. So I thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you, Maria, for that acknowledgement, because it's sometimes tough, maybe voicing that out, not only in the group at the beginning, because you don't know how it's going to be taken, but just in the mundane world, to have to be able to have the courage to say, oh, this is what it is, and not be questioned. And so from learning even just the vocabulary that you all have about your gifts, it is allowing me to say, yes, you can say that too, because I know what is my truth, and this is what I've been experiencing. And I will bring my daughters home as an example again. In this case, I'm not the only one hearing and the feeling about the home. So it's very clear that, okay, there's something going on, because if it was just myself, I could say, well, I'm going to rely on my gifts to know that there's cleansing that needs to happen. But now everybody else feeling it and hearing things, it's like, okay, we all know that this is happening, especially because they don't participate maybe in not that they doubt me or they would ever tell me anything, but they don't prescribe to that. And so I just thank you, because again, it is really difficult when you're still coming out as I have this gift, and to be able to feel comfortable in your own skin, to acknowledge it, to own it, and to feel proud of owning this, because it's not always a gift, it's a curse sometimes, because heck, nobody wants to feel like a bad juju out there. It's not cool if I hear a voice in the middle of the night when I'm fully awake and nobody else.
Maria,
Oh,
did you
sorry,
have
my
more?
connection.
Oh, I'm
Sorry
sorry.
about that. My connection just cut out. So yeah. But
That's okay.
thank you
You
anyway.
left off. That's okay. Yeah, you left off. It said when you're hearing something and nobody else is. That's where you left off. If you wanted to complete that, if you felt you needed to.
Yeah, I had an experience which I thought was really strong, and I was going to hold back on it because I thought this is just really out there, but I kind of had receipts for that, because as I was spending the night there, the last night that I was there, we hadn't done any more work. The whole cleaning was done. We had just the day prior, we were just resting. We weren't doing any. We were just resting and having a good day, wrapping up before the day I was going to leave their home. And in the middle of the night, I felt a lot of burning in my back. And when I took a shower in the morning, I realized that, and actually, my daughter's the one, I had her check in my back, in the back of my neck, and in my forearms. I had a lot of scratches that weren't there the night before. Scratches that were deep enough to have burned me in the shower, to have burned me at night, because it felt, you just feel it like when you cut yourself. And I thought, okay, so it's just going to take a little bit more of cleansing. And coming to you all and saying this out loud for the first time, I think, in my life, I don't feel judged, and I don't feel like, oh no, this didn't happen to you, or, so it just feels so good to be able to express something that's happening that anybody else out there wouldn't understand. And so again, it always, with me, it's always going to come back to thank you all, because you provide such a safe space for me to be able to be so honest and vulnerable.
Thank you so much. It's interesting, like talking about like other people. Just in my experience, when I did dabble in professional tarot reading for a short time, it never failed that I'd be doing a party or something, and I'd get the side conversations, like the biggest skeptic in the room would be like, but can I just tell you about this experience that I had, like, so I feel like that I feel like there are a lot of people out there that are experiencing and sensing things, and maybe, in their own way. But because of social conditioning or religion or various other things, they interpret it, in a different way, or they just choose not to pay attention to it. But it's always been my belief that people experience, you know, people not engaging in a magical practice experience fair amounts, and they, like, again, it's just your interpretation. And that was just a funny, like, I always just used to chuckle, when I'd have someone pull me aside, like, and that, and I get there and they're saying how, oh, I don't believe in this stuff and blah blah blah, and how do you know, and are you real, can you really do this, and then they'd be like, well, I saw my dead grandmother yesterday, and I just want to know like what you thought, um and the community, and like being able to kind of like feel that support, to feel like empowered, and for me, just a bit of it is also getting to a point, and this happened as I got a little bit older, where I just don't give so much a fuck what other people say. And I'm just like, well, I hear spirits and that's like, this is what I'm doing. And so like, have a nice day. If you don't want the information, like, I don't know. So it's like that balance of like, you know, I'm always like experiencing this duality of like having, oh Jesus, a bug just flew into my thing. Having so much compassion, but then like a little bit of like I don't give a fuck. I feel like for me, I feel like I've kind of balanced it as and but I still feel sorry, there's a huge bug. I still feel anxious sometimes also with it. And like I still have moments like of doubt as much, you know, because I've only really I mean, I've been practicing divination for like, you know, I don't know, 22 years or something like that. Not always I didn't really dive into my witchcraft practice really until Bright and Dark for 3 years, but as long as I've been practicing divination, I still have those times, you know. Um and I love so much hearing like when everybody shares. And I mean, if this is like a sign or a ping, like it's my favorite thing to do. Like my favorite thing to do is to come and to listen to all the different experiences. And I just love hearing everything, and I learn so much from everybody. So thank you.
We still have a little bit over 5 minutes if anybody wants to weigh in or bring up something short and sweet.
I'll just maybe wrap it up with like Earth School that we're all experiences is like no joke. And like, you know, we're all kind of here doing the thing, and we're all badasses. So that's all.
Renee, feel free to go ahead.
One other super cool thing, it's someone I've been following on Instagram, but they popped up on my screen yesterday, but it's a woman called the Black Forager, and she is like an expert forager, and she just makes the coolest stuff, and it is very witchy. So if anybody is interested, I mean, she was like eating magnolias and making like magnolia cookies the other day. Like yeah, she is so happy. Like she's the most joyful, like delightful person, but she is so knowledgeable, like so knowledgeable about plants. And I like to forage too, but I don't, I can actually forage quite a bit of stuff just in my own yard. So that's about um where I do all of my foraging. But anyway, that's just a fun thing for anybody. Stephanie, I'll hop off.
I kind of hesitate to say this because I don't want to be invalidating at all. But to speak about the fear piece of like the bad woo-woo, the bad juju, the scary, creepy stuff, like the images that come to mind, I don't know if y'all can think of or remember, there's this meme gif of this little boy that's holding on to a wire, and he's in water, and he feels like he's drowning, and he's like panicking and feeling like he's drowning, and his parents are like, oh, stand up. And then he stands up and he realizes that he's in like a foot of water, and he stands up. I don't know if y'all remember that, right? And so he really feels like he's drowning, and he really is terrified. And then he's like, oh, I can stand up. Or there's a whole bunch of videos of like little kids that are terrified of their shadow, and they're genuinely scared and terrified of this shadow that's following them, and like, holy shit, like it's a shadow and it's chasing me, and it's this scary thing that is chasing them. But as we get older, we realize like, oh, that's a natural, it's our shadow. Or being, or like if we can expand as big as like the sky, we're not scared of bugs or, hold on, snakes or grizzly bears. Even like if we can't be eaten by these things, if we're not destroyed by these things, then we're not scared of them anymore. And so I just have a feeling and a vibe of like just the reminding and the memory of like, if this thing can't eat you or sting you or kill you or destroy you, then the fear kind of dissipates with it. And not to invalidate the fear at all, because the unknown and the confusing is scary. It is. But I think as we expand and as we get bigger and as we lose ignorance and a lack of understanding of what the fuck it is, I think the fear goes away too, maybe a little bit. And as we get bigger, it gets smaller. And so I hope, if Isabel, if you're feeling that, or if you're in that murky mist of it all, that, I don't know, I pray that for you and send light and love and peace and good positive juju to whatever bad juju is clouding you. And I hope that's not invalidating.
Thank you, Stephanie. I don't know if you all can hear me. I have such bad connection today. But
We
for
can.
once in my lifetime, I am not afraid at all. I just know that I am in unknown territory as far as the degree. In any case, my daughter has decided that besides what we're doing, and we have stopped practicing Catholicism in over 20 years, but she's going to bring a priest in, just kind of like to do everything that we can under the umbrella of, heck, at least we tried this or that. But there is like zero fear from any of us, but we acknowledge that, okay, no, we've never experienced this to this degree, but thank you for that. No, I absolutely concur with you. There are so many things out there that we might not know about, but the stronger I feel like maybe in our practice we become, the less fear there is, because yeah, the less also ignorance about also accepting what could be and what couldn't be. So thank you, Stephanie.
I know that it's time to go. And I just want to say, like, sometimes during these conversations, I'm just kind of saying this for me, like that I never also too want to be like invalidating, because we are all like working through a lot of things. And so like fear like does like come up, and just wanting to like honor that wherever you are is exactly where you should be, and like working through, like we're here to support whatever it is like you're working through, and there's nothing wrong, absolutely zero, nothing ever wrong with like what you're feeling or experiencing. And a lot of times it's just like the sharing of like different, perspectives, and there is shady shit out there, and we do, need to use discernment. And that's why too, like being able to share in this space is also like really important when we need to process something or like work something out. But it is in fact a process. And so I just wanted to say that as we wrap up. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you all for coming. It was lovely to see you. Bye, everyone.